Okay, so I've been wondering how I can incorporate some Python into my Flutterflow projects. So I'm doing this because I'm spending a bit more time in Python, trying to learn a lot more about it, and the power of it and the things you can do with it and its simplicity. I think it will be a good use of my time. So I'm going to start introducing these sort of things and pass on what I know and what I learn as always. So obviously we can't use it directly in Flutterflow because it's just a completely different language, so we need to use it externally and bring that information into our Flutterflow apps. This instance, we are going dead simple. We have got a very simple API. It's called the Mystery Box API. I've set this up, and there is a video on it which you can follow if you need to set the Python side up. I will run it through it very, very briefly now, but if you're starting from scratch, I suggest you go and watch that first. It will be on the screen. And basically what we're doing, we've got this API hosted at Python Anywhere, and we're just hitting the endpoint with our API calls in Flutterflow and receiving a response. So there's no API keys or anything required. It's completely open just for testing purposes. So just test the API call and we'll get some information back from there. So on the Python side, we have got a web app hosted on Python Anywhere. And then in the Files tab, so you'd have to go onto Python Anywhere and create an account, set up a new app, which would be a Flask app. And then you will need to upload some files, which are hosted on GitHub. So they're all there for you to use. And then your endpoint would be your username, .python anywhere, not obviously my username at Python Anywhere. So you can download these, put them in the files as explained in the video. Basically you've got app.py, which will be your main file that goes in the root directory my site. Then you need a folder called roots, so you create a new directory here, new directory called roots, and then you'll put in the init file, the mystery file, and the mystery API file. And then you need another directory called utils, so type in utils, create a directory, and in that you will need an init file and your mystery items file. And the mystery items, what we've got in this instance, we have got what's called a Python directory, which is just a way of storing information in Python with keys and values, and essentially that's all hard coded in this instance because it's trying to keep it simple. So that's sort of what we're selecting the random information from to return back to our Flutterflow app. So one of the good things about this and using Python Anywhere, we have got some roots. And so if we go on mystery, that is the selecting the code for our selecting our random choice from the mystery items, and our endpoint is /mystery. And then we've got some other endpoints here for some other things I've been working on. That would be /reorder and /thumbnails. Now the reason this is a useful piece of information is because if you want to use Python as your endpoint, so for instance you can have all kinds of endpoints on here and they don't all have to be simple. They can query other external APIs, which I am going to come on to but not in this video. I actually built an app where I could query pretty much any API just from one API call, which is what I'm getting to. So you can set these up with variables in the URL and obviously variables in your requests. So when you're on a limited plan, i.e. you only get 2 API endpoints on Flutterflow, you can actually do it with probably 1 or even just use the 2, where you can start using Python Anywhere as your middleware. So then your different routes will query different APIs. So you're only querying one endpoint from Flutterflow, i.e. your pythonanywhere.com / whatever you want that to be. And then those routes within your Python app then query and then return the information you want from whatever else you want to do, other APIs you want to call. So the reason I'm going into this from a simplicity point of view is just to get it started, but I am going to go over it in another video with much more complexity, so we can bypass the only having 2 endpoints and you can use Python Anywhere as your middleware. So that's where I'm going to with this. So anyway, so you need to, if you want to follow along though for the basic bit, you need to grab these files from GitHub. The link obviously will be down below, and then the instructions there are actually dead simple, but you can watch the video if you wish. But if you just literally follow those instructions and put the folder in the right place in your Python Anywhere app, and then everything should work. The only thing you need to be sure of is that your WSGI file, so along the top here you've got your different menu options. The files is where we just come from. This is the web tab, and this is basically just going to reload your app as you make changes to it or just visit the URL or whatever. You got something called the WSGI file, and this is basically where your Python Anywhere instance will initiate your project. So you need to make sure that that points to the right direction. I've kept mine as default, so therefore my site, so everything is default. And then in your app.py file, you should be fine. As long as it says that in your WSGI file, you'll be fine. But if you make any changes, so for instance, from your app file, import app as application, if you change the name of the file or you change, there's a variable called app in the app file. Maybe too many apps, a bit too confusing. But basically, you need to make sure that that matches. But if you don't touch anything from what I've provided you, then you'll be fine. But they're the only things that's probably going to break this. And in this instance, we're not actually using that particular import there. That's something I'm currently working on. Anyway, all that is beside the point. So essentially, within Flutterflow, you go into the API call section and you can just create a new API call it whatever you want, and query your endpoint. Indeed, you can actually query my endpoint. This is published. You can just go and query it. So if you don't want to create your own Python Anywhere instance and you just want to test this out, feel free to hit this endpoint here. It's up for now. I may take it down at some point, but for now it's going to stay up. And then just go, there's no API keys or anything, it's completely open. I kind of got the idea from my Vocabotron game where I hit a public endpoint that provided me with a random 5-letter word. It was completely open, no API keys required, just tell it you want a 5-letter word basically and it sends you one. And I thought, oh, try that out. And that's where I've ended up with this. So if you go in the response and test, and then you can see that I already tested it, but if we go test again, test API call, and it'll just send us back a mystery link, which you can be brave enough to choose and click on or not. That's entirely up to you. I don't know what it is. I haven't actually checked. It was created by ChatGPT. So in the Python dictionary that contains all of the information, you see there we've got the YouTube link. I asked ChatGPT to generate this stuff for me because I just, rather than trying to think of it myself, I thought just get it done for me. Obviously it's just quicker. So you can actually go and ask ChatGPT, paste this in and say, can you make me another 200 of those, and you've got loads more options. But yeah, I have no idea what that YouTube video is, or even it is actually a YouTube video. I don't have a clue, to be honest. Just hitting up the endpoint, it works. And then what I've done on the response, I have added the JSON path. So when you add a JSON path, so if we go, in fact, let's delete the JSON path, and there you go. On the response there, it gives us the option to create a JSON path based on what we've got. And if we just go add JSON path, and what that means is, we'll call that the content because that's what it was. What that means is that we can then map in our Flutterflow app to that path, and then on the response we will get that information. So let's go and do this quickly. This is a bit you've probably done a million times before, so we'll do this very quickly. So let's put in a column, a couple of rows, and let's center those. And then we just want some text, which we will expand and center. We want to expand the text, not the row. There we go. And we'll center the text. And then our text wants to be from our API call, which then what we'll do now, we'll put in a button, and let's just split those up a bit. and then that'll be call that get mystery because it's called the mystery API. Then on the button we will need an action, and then that will be an API call. And then we don't actually need to do anything there. The API call get mystery, and then the action out point API mystery. On the false, we should maybe put an error message up to say it failed, but I know it won't. So, but we, in theory, obviously we should do. So this is just getting our API call, and then our text in there will be from our action output, API mystery, and JSON body, JSON path, and that will be content. Confirm, and then what we're doing there, we're just saying, displaying the box when we click the button, whatever the content section is of the API call, i.e. the emojis with whatever text comes with it or whatever type of response we get, basically. So that's what we're doing there. Dead easy. So let's just go into test mode and see if it works. Okay, so it loaded. That's been a bit hit and miss lately, so that's good news. So if we just click on get mystery, and there we go, we get our whatever our mystery is. The null we can do something with, so our blank content is null, so we can either have it as default variable, the variable value, we'll just call it get your mystery, and we can confirm that, and we'll maybe format it a bit better, make it 20, and I don't know, primary color maybe, don't know, that'll do. That works. It's a very simple Python backend. Now obviously you can substitute the this information with whatever you want. You can use this format of key and value, and you can put whatever information you want in there if you want to change it. So if you've got some simple information that you want to serve to your app, you can do it like this, and the only thing you need to change really is the keys and values in here, and then in turn when you test your API call, your JSON path would change. So if you wanted to change it up, you could do that. But this is a very simple way of using Python to create a backend on your app to serve some simple information. Obviously this is not secured in any way, it's an open API. I am going to do some stuff on how we can create secured APIs and how we can use Python as a middleware, like I was just saying. So I am going to delve into this quite deeply. This is just the opening gambit, I guess. So hopefully that's something you can use. Like I say, Python anywhere is, you can host an app for free. I am doing some other bits with it, all of which will end up being some of this other stuff is, all of which will end up being having videos about at some point in time. But in the meantime, that is a very simple way of serving information from a Python Flask app to your Flutterflow app. Hopefully that was useful. Hope you can stick along and see how I develop this and make it much more complex. Hopefully something that you'll be interested in and will use. So with that being said, thank you for watching the video as always, and I'll speak to you next time.